you'll see that in several places where that had to be pulled out. Health and safety is 0314. That requires maintenance and custodial personnel who may work with asbestos-containing building materials to receive additional training. 0318 is evaluation, replaces husband and wife with spouse. Another change there. Medical examination 03211 is the same policy for classified. Health and safety 03214 is asbestos for classified. 03.5 is paraprofessionals. Language changed pursuant to ESSA. Parents continue to have the right to request information on qualifications of their children's paraprofessionals, and the language changed there meets those requirements. Finance officer qualifications. 04.0, there's a new regulation 702 KAR 3.320. Mr. Christian has in his hand. Since the district is looking for a new finance officer, there are regulations on that finance officer's training. Basically, finance officers currently are grandfathered in from some of these restrictions, but if you have not performed as a district finance officer before, there is certain training which has been stipulated by the state, State Board of Education and KE. So, and that's a 3-page regulation which is in quite a bit of detail. So that policy will serve as everyone's notice that the board is aware of that. Alterations of buildings and grounds 05.11 brings integrated pest management to the school system. Integrated pest management is something that basically you want to use pesticides and chemicals judiciously, and there's a procedure where we are going to have to notify students if pesticides are being actively used on the current building. So this contains language which complies with that. Driver and substitute driver training 0621, this is a change. The board was paying so language has been changed from shall to may pay the fee for a commercial driver's license. I would expect them to continue to do that. Otherwise, we're not going to have any bus drivers. So, okay. Pre-college curriculum 08.1121. Some flexibility. This allows the district has some flexibility in the college readiness assessment required, and strikes ACT and adds an authorized college admissions assessment. 08.1312 clarifies that the ARC 514 that determines educational placement in home hospital for elementary and secondary students with disabilities looks at the number of credits that can be given, and also removes reference to core academic standards, which is old language. Extended school / supplemental educational services has just been changed to extended school services because the SSA abolished supplemental education services. School calendar 08.3 allows districts to be open on election day if no school in the district is used as a polling place. That does not apply to us, but if it does at some point in the future, we will be able to take advantage of that. This policy specifically states that the schools that we could be used those days for PD, et cetera, some of the things that we've been doing now. So 09.11 school attendance areas, the successor in No Child Left Behind, which is ESSA, no longer requires districts to offer a transfer to students attending a school identified for school improvement. So that language is reflected there. Also with attendance requirements 09.122, there's an exception in there that allows students attending basic training to be considered present at school for up to 10 days. But you'll see that in several places. Absences and excuses on 9.123, same change. Dismissal from school 9.1231 clarifies that the legal guardian of someone assigned by the Cabinet for Human Services may pick the child up from school, essentially function as its parent or guardian. 09.1231 recognizes that student and release of records are handled separately. Release of records is covered under access to student policy. And that adds a language about legal custodian. Let's see, 9.14 student records adds language that says legal separation or divorce alone does not terminate a parent's record access rights, which is interesting because we have some children of parents that have never married. So I think these you have to get broader and broader with some of these definitions. So Let's see, child abuse 09.227 requires each school to prominently display the statewide child abuse hotline number. 09.313 is eligibility for athletics. This was interesting. There was an Attorney General opinion rendered this past December covering the practice of playing up. And it basically, the Attorney General opinion basically overruled two previous Attorney General opinions. If you remember, the board addressed this last summer, I believe. It has given local boards of education and local site-based councils the ability to regulate playing up for sports except football and soccer. So that has become a board and site-based council. Board and site-based councils can now make rules regarding that. 09.36 school-related student trips. For students to be counted present, school-related trips taken during the school day must be instructional in nature. Bullying and hazing, 09.422, there was some discussion about that. This bullying definition was promulgated by the state. The statute's 158.148, and it's important to check our student handbooks to make sure that the language, the official definition of bullying is there in bluing, and we want to make sure that that is throughout all handbooks and throughout all district materials. So, Student Discipline Code 09.438, again, deals with the bullying statute. And after that, there were some which were added by us. I'm not sure if 01.7 is needed, because at the time we hired you, Tia, we were thinking about having somebody on salary, but we pay you a retainer. So, and the question was, if we paid you on salary, we would have to have a job description for you, and that policy actually came out of that discussion. But since you're on retainer, I'm not sure that that's actually needed.
Well, I was actually going to ask you the same question because it refers to a procedure that there wasn't a
It doesn't
new
exist,
one.
right?
Yeah.
So I would be fine deleting 01.7 if that's okay with the rest of the board.
I mean, do you want to delete it or go back to the old version, I guess?
We could discuss that. Because we investigated the issue of this. Most boards do not hire their attorney. The arrangement we had with Mr. Rosenthal was unusual. So we basically paid him a yearly salary, and he pretty much was more or less functioned as a paid staff member. So, and that's not the current arrangement we have with you. And very few. I'm not aware of actually any boards which have that arrangement with anybody. So.
Oldest County is the only in-house attorney one.
So I'm not one for keeping things on the books that don't need to be there, but discussion, feedback, comments.
I'd say keep it as a retainer. That'd be my thought.
So keep it as is. All right. Let's see. Next item is leaves and absences 03.123, and this changes substitute finder system to ASOP. You'll see that in some other places. 03.12332 is family medical leave. Again, there's language change there regarding spouse, child, or parent has a serious health condition, which is in line with federal law. And comparing companion policy for certified classified staff, we're back there. Evaluation, we need to change our policy to reflect our current what we just approved with the classified evaluation plan, which is a 3.28. Each classified shall be evaluated one time each year by April 15th. Minimum. So that should read, each classified employee shall be evaluated a minimum of one time each year by April 15th. And then 03.4 is substitute teachers. Again, ESSA abolished highly qualified teachers, so that language was removed. And instructional organization 08.12 reflects the current grade structure of the district. So we added 08.113, which is graduation requirements, and the grievance policy, which was 09.4281. There was some discussion of that from some events which happened last month. Ms. Combs and I did some research on that. And we use KSBA's model policy. I think the only exception was some of the timeframes that we use. And I think our timeframes are actually a little bit narrower than KSBA's. I think we use 10 days and KSBA is 2 weeks or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is. So But, yeah, there was a lot of discussion about that policy, but it seems to fit the statutes that are out there and allows people some degree of due process for things that they feel the need to address. So, any comments on that, Tina?
I would say that there are some other, I don't want to say, let's say versions. At KSBA, they promulgate policies, and they have what they call the A version, which you have mainly. And then they have other versions so that you can sort of pick. So if anybody is interested in making a change, I did get all those versions from your policy consultant at Dr. Kudak's request directly after the last meetings that we had concerning grievances. So if anybody is interested in that, we do have those other policies if anybody would like to see those or consider those. I just sort of requested the options so that you could see those. And of course, we can make our own specific changes also if you'd like. I just thought that might be a helpful place to start if anybody was at all interested in changing those policies.
Do we know how many districts use the other versions than the one we have?
Yes, they say 166 districts have the policy, 82 have the recommended version. 149 districts have the procedure that you use and have a procedure for the policy, and 76 have the recommended version. I can send you this email that has the statistic in it.
Cool.
Okay.
Look at it in the working session.
That's something that we can do. So,
I mean, do we have to approve that tonight?
Just get the first reading, please, tonight, and then come back for the second
We'll
reading.
go ahead and forward this on to everyone.
That can't have to be changed in the second reading.
Okay.
I looked at some other districts in the area, and those that are online, and we're not too far away from what other districts are doing. So I think the question came up, is our grievance policy at odds with, something that other people are doing? And the answer is no. So we're pretty much in line with what other districts are doing. So. Okay. All right, other discussion?
So on the 9.4281, is your
Leave it the same
as
for
it is
now,
for now,
and
then the 8.113.
leave it the same, so no change.
But we can't pull that.
We can pull those and discuss.
And
You'll
look
give
at
the
it.
first reading approval, the first reading tonight, at the next meeting, you'll give the second reading, that's when they become policy, just like the KSBA, if you want to make any
Okay.
changes, you can at any time, and even after that, they can change.
And yeah, for a work session, I would be
Yeah.
fine. This would be a good item to bring up for a work session to say, okay, here are some of the issues we've had with this, here are some of the things that we'd like to see, and, they can work through some legal things, so. Okay, so that took about 10 minutes.
So when we get
I was all right with that.
the second reading, will it have the rewording on the ones that need to be reworded?
The one that needs to be ordered is Scarlet.
That minimum.
The minimum. All right. We will be looking for that next
I
month.
will take care of it, promise.
Any questions on any of the other policies that are there?
I had a comment about the instructional organization one, the 0.812, that I find it somewhat confusing, and this is probably KSBA's recommendation, I get that. But when we talk about primary school, parenthesis P here, in many of our documents, when we see parenthesis P, it's preschool, and that's not part of the instructional organization. And middle school consists of grades 5 through 8. Well, we designate ours as intermediate and junior high. And yes, the state recognizes those as middle grades. I get that. But is there any way we can have clarification for our policy, even if we keep this part, to specify that we have intermediate and junior high?
Number was that?
0.8.12.
Was it in the middle or at the end?
Toward the end. Page 74 of 79.
Yep, 74 is in the middle, okay.
Our physical organization is a little different than this. We went away from middle school to intermediate and junior high, but now this policy says middle school.
What would the effect on certifications be? Because teachers are certified as to elementary, middle.
Now, they're
no.
certified,
No.
it'll specify grade level certifications on certifications.
No.
What they're recognizing as middle school here, that's the way your K-Prep is set up, that's what's recognized in our K-Prep scoring.
Right, I understand that. The curricular organization, you know, I understand all of that. I just think that, you know, when we went to our new configuration, it was with great, you know, deliberation, and, you know, we spent a lot of time coming up with that configuration and agreeing on that configuration, and now all of a sudden our policy says we're middle school grades 5 through 8. No, we really aren't.
Well, KDE's got other, I know KDE has other things that they, you know, when you look at, say, scoring system accountability has this. It's not real flexible looking at, you know, many districts have many different grade configurations and a lot of flexibility for things, but, you know, the accountability system we operate in right now is not that flexible. So, so I know the state has different definitions, so.
But, you know, if the policy is to be our policy, it ought to reflect our.
Can you look into that?
Yes.
Because I think what Judy's trying to say is the policy should say what we do. And what we do is primary school, elementary school is K through 4. We have an intermediate school, yes. Scarlett.
Okay, but I think what the problem is, the state is running a tab behind. You go to the KEP site and look for the possibility, drop down the possibilities when you're posting positions.
Right, that's what I was
There's no
thinking.
intermediate.
Yeah.
And there's no junior high. Then I've talked to her about it, like I have to just improvise and use the closest thing to what I'm posting for. Because really, truly, with the 5-6 school, I'm not only possibly posting for a middle school position, it could be an elementary.
Yes, yes.
So it's very confusing. I'm kind of hoping KEPS will get up on board with it and get some drop downs that match what we do, but not every county has an intermediate school.
Right.
So.
How does
they're-
Montgomery do, what's Montgomery's?
They do like we either, if the principal decides they really want someone that's subject area, like social studies or math, then we have to do the pull down and do middle school and do 7, 8. And then if they want to do, and if they decide this time I'm gonna hire an elementary teacher, because I want to be able to teach everything, then we have to put it in as an elementary teacher. You just have to improvise, and in the dialogue, you have to be specific about what you're looking for. They're just behind on those drop downs. They don't match our district. It doesn't mean we're
Right.
wrong.
Whatever we do in this policy, still it's not gonna change, it's not gonna have an effect on that, that is what it is, it's gonna stay that way till they catch up.
Right.
Till they change, make their
Right.
changes, so whatever's in the policy doesn't really have any effect on what we do. I mean, you can recommend changing whatever you want.
I mean, I don't see why we couldn't change it.
You know, because we've all, you know, our discussions have been about our policies reflecting what we do in our
Right.
district.
Yep.
So that was the reason I thought that sort of needed some clarification.
Well, do you think there's any reason we can't change that to reflect what we actually do?
don't
I see,
really-
you have to think through the
I
ramifications of
don't
this, I
really,
get
but
that.
I mean, does it affect the teacher certification type of issue? I just am not sure. I think one of the things you can do is change that, and then I can work with KSBA to either get them to figure that out for us and to bring that up. They do review these policies for their legal ramifications. That's part of what you're paying
Right,
for.
right.
So I think that we should change it and see what they say. And then also I can call and say, hey, we changed that and we know that that's kind of unusual. So let's work together to make sure that that's okay.
Okay.
Okay. So do you want to amend that to reflect what we actually do and see what everybody has to say? And if it blows up, well, we can undo it at the second reading.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like
Fair.
to see that happen.
All right. All right, so we would suggest that instructional organization, that should read, physical organization, elementary school consists of, what would you say, Judy? Kindergarten through fourth grade?
Kindergarten through grade 4.
Intermediate school
Intermediate
consists
school.
of grades 5 through 6. Junior high school consists of grades 7 through 8. And high school consists of grades 9 through 12.
Yes.
How about curricular organization? There is no, you're not going to find intermediate childhood education anywhere.
Right.
So I would probably say leave that the same.
That policy becomes adopted modifications.
Yeah,
Yes.
0812, there's about modification. And what's the policy Scarlett needs to fix about employee evaluations? What's your number on that?
The number,
Yeah.
oh, Do I need to?
Right here, it's 0328.
Three something.
0328. Is that right?
0.28.
0328.
Yeah, don't worry, I do this, I've done this year after year, I'll make sure it's correct.
It's on page 71.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
okay.
Of 79.
Modification.
Yeah, because Paul's got his checklist there, I want to make sure we're straight.
It's,
Yeah, 03.28.
referenced in the actual tool, that policy is referenced. So I'll just send it.
Okay. So the two with modification are going to be 03.28 and 08.12. Everything else is as is. So,
That was modifying that from 2 times a year to at least
A
1 time.
minimum.
Minimum.
And I wrote that.
Minimum.
each employee shall be evaluated a minimum of 1 time each year by April 15th, which says they can be evaluated more often. Okay.
That's policy, regulations. I think that we need to look at that, and that needs to be a determination. If the board does that, then that needs to be a determination of the board, wouldn't you think? Graduation and walking at graduation and all that.
Graduation. Wow.
What are we looking at? That one right there, towards the end, 75.
The new one.
08113.
Yeah.
Lots of no, that's existing. So
That's one, yeah, Dr. Kudak had to put on there.
we just brought that up for
Yeah,
potential
whatever
discussion
changes we
after
want to
the.
make.
And we can work on that in.
I'm fine for bringing that back at a work session.
Leave it as written and.
I'll leave it as written, bring it back at a work session.
Yeah. I mean, we might not do nothing, but that's fine.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right, any other discussion, any of the policies that were presented? Okay, so a motion is in order to approve first reading of policy updates as presented by Mr. Christie and Dr. Hudak, with the exception of 03.28 and 08.12, which have been amended.
I'll make that motion as presented.
Motion by Mr. Peridot,
Second.
second by Ms. Hicks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, so policy. Proceed with policy goes procedures. Go ahead, Paul, why don't you give administration's take on things and then go over things from Bob?
Our only change there is if you look at, computer that shut down, policy procedure number 09224, AP 21, and 092241, AP 20, voting 21. Those are, and Mr. Hollins here to help if you need, if we have additional questions. We're wanting to adopt those as they are printed in your, I think you have the copy that's printed that we're wanting to adopt is what's in your packet. What it is on that, one of them has to do with, the first one has to do with 2 forms. We combined 2 forms into one. There was a lot of duplicated information we were having parents fill out. Because we have that information in Infinite Campus and it's stored there, there's no need to have that duplicated, having to do it in writing. So we combined those 2 forms into one. The second one was just weeding out some info. And it also asked for, this is the one where for the form plan, but it's the one where, Greg, correct me, is this the one where the doctor's note, we're asking for, where they've done the attendance audits?
Yep.
We're allowed so many absences, unlimited number of doctor's excuses. We're putting a limit of when we get.
Yes. 12, yeah.
Get
There needs to
12
be some
there,
communication to the doctor.
there's a form to fill out, the parent has to pick up and it goes back to the doctor so that, one, it makes the parent aware, and it makes the doctor aware that they have given at least 12 excused absences.
I'm great with that. I think that is long overdue. I'm going to have one suggestion when we get to it, so.
So that's the 2 changes there, and everything else is adopted as recommended by KSBA.
Okay. So, all right, so I'll go through these one by one quickly. 01.61 AP 11, Notice of Security Breach and Investigation Procedures, again reflects law that requires, new state law which requires reporting of security breaches to proper authorities. The policy goes into quite a bit of detail on that. NCLB qualification notifications has been changed to ESSA qualification notifications because NCLB no longer exists. Integrated pest management, that procedure matches the policy which was adopted before about pesticide use in the schools. And again, that's something where we're going to have to talk, and if we're applying pesticides while students are in schools, we'll have to give them adequate notice. Extended school services slash supplemental educational services has been changed because the ESSA got rid of supplemental educational services. Again, ESSA transfer notification options was changed subsequent to change in federal law. School check-in and check-out pass. An item was added: persons with lawful authority to take custody of the student. 09.14 AP1, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act definitions. Again, the new ESSA Act allows students who reach age of 18 opt out of release of information, military recruiters, and institutions of higher education. Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act also changed for similar reasons. Notification of FERPA rights also changed for similar reasons. Release inspection of student records / Medicaid consent to third party reflects medicine's continuing progression towards medical records. So nobody has printed records anymore. Everybody submits medical record or electronic records to other people. So supervision of students adds as 09.221. This procedure utilized for supervision or request for special treatment is made due to transgender identity or other issues which might require special supervision considerations. It just adds 6 other issues, which leaves it pretty open. Consent for school health services. Was this the first one you were going to modify? Okay.
The first one, the form you have in there now is the modified form.
Okay.
It's sent to KSBA, and they actually printed the modified form.
I didn't see any issue with that, so that's going to be, so 09224 AP2 one was modified. All right. And then 09.224 AP21 is permission form for prescribed and over-the-counter medication. I'm going to say something about this because I have to fill these out all the time, so. But I think that's fine. That's what you have here is in line with what other districts are using right now, so I'm fine with that. So that was all. That's going to be as presented in what we have here, so change from there. Record of student arrest at school.
Did you cover 221 AP1? 09221 AP1. Supervision of students.
Yes.
I suggested adding parking lots to that list.
I'm fine with that.
I think it needs to be.
What's it say?
Principals develop and implement plan supervision for their schools to address the following areas: bus loading and unloading, meals, halls, restaurants, and playgrounds, time before and after school break, field trips, and school activities and other issues. Yeah, I'd add parking lots.
It's mandated for administrators. It's part of the administrative code that they're mandated to do there too. So we can add that as a number 7.
As a
I would
specific
put
item.
maybe all buildings
As
and
number
grounds.
6 and number.
Yeah,
number six
actually,
and number
I would
7.
just
That's
say
right. Anything that has to do with buildings.
all buildings and grounds.
Because legally, we're held responsible if something happens anywhere on that property, correct?
If it's a school function,
Yeah.
yes.
So that one becomes the adopted modification.
Right. So that would be field trips and other school activities, other issues, and all other areas on buildings and grounds not mentioned. Okay. All right, let's see. So we got through medication forms, record of student arrests at school, explanation, student officials shall follow directions provided by the investigating officer or Cabinet of Health and Family Services whether to contact the parent regardless of whom the alleged perpetrator is. Reporting of code violations adds bullying. Visitors to the schools is 10.5 AP1, adds passage for observation of outside agencies. School staff that outside service providers are allowed to go to the schools only to provide therapy or designated services to students if the outside service provider has been sought out, contract by the school district for services. Outside service providers may not be allowed into schools for observation only. Let's see, attendance forms 09.123 AP2. educational enhancement opportunity request form. Is that new, or has that been there before, or?
The EHO form has been there, but there are a couple of modifications with it. It has been there.
Okay. Okay.
So what are the changes to it?
What are the changes to that?
I'd have to take a look at it specifically and see which those schools.
That's the one for, to request absence to participate in educational enhancement activity, please complete this application, return to your school principal at least 5 days prior to anticipated event.
That's standard, that's it.
It's in the, we looked at the companion policy, I think it's in line with the policy, so. Let's see, 09.123 AP2 medical excuse form. Let's see, like I said, I think this is a good idea. Mr. Holland and I have had some conversations about this in the past, and there could be a real disconnect if students are getting notes from different providers, or sometimes even from one office, they're getting notes from different providers in one office, and you can rack up a fairly large number of absences, and you really don't know why. And to me, that's a red flag as a medical provider. Kid needs to be in school, and if the kid's not in school and has some issue going on, it needs to be addressed. So. And I think this one was modeled after, there's a district in northern Kentucky, I think.
Yeah, there were a couple of districts that were taken over by the state for other reasons. When they did that, they sent a team of folks in, and one of the things that they did was to implement this, and this is a KDE approved initiative with this. They're trying to, and it makes sense when you take a look at it, the number that we've set here is the average number at the highest school, which is GRC, which are the average number of attendance for excused absences for doctor's notes. So some districts have done 10, we chose to do 12, and we put it in. If you take a look at the number of doctor's notes that this would allow is 12. Couple that with the number of parent notes, that's 18. So when you stop and do the math, that would be giving a student the ability to miss 18 days excused. That's a month of school.
Right.
That's a lot of school. My personal belief is that a student's going to miss that much, barring they have something like cystic fibrosis, they have something that's chronic illness, something like that. The student misses that much school, they should be on home hospital. There should be some services that we're able to provide. And what this does is, this puts the cap on. If you've got some doctor's offices that have 7 doctors, 3 doctors, which we know that there are some providers that do, sometimes they go to different doctors. This is going to alert the physician as soon as they get this, that they have been to enough physicians that they have missed this amount. And plus, a lot of times, the physicians are not the ones who are writing the excuses. Right. It's front office staff. So that alerts the physician. They've been here this many times to see the doctor. So that's the goal.
Yes. All right. One thing I would discuss or bring up. I think you were pretty well covered. A kid with CF that has a lot of exacerbations, you're probably going to put on homebound. And there are some things where you look at this and you say, all right, this kid's just not going to be able to go to school for the next week, 2 weeks, month, etc. But occasionally you have illnesses. Let's say I got a kid in my practice with significant migraines. And the only treatment for really bad migraines is go home and go to sleep. That's the only thing which really works. If you look at all the medicines that we write for migraines, they all make you go to sleep, and that's really what works. So, and I'm having trouble controlling a child's migraine frequency, and I can't predict how many times this child's going to miss school because of these migraines, but I can't predict what the pattern is going to be. This kid could miss 3 times in a week and then not have anything for a couple of months. Let's say a kid with mononucleosis, and a lot of us are familiar with mononucleosis. If you've been unfortunate to have it, or when your children have had it, you know that after about the first 2 weeks of illness, where you're acutely ill and you start to recover, you're very fatigued and very tired. And my routine advice to kids is, do what you can. And it's very hard for them to predict exactly how they're going to feel when they wake up that day. They may be able to go to school all day. They may come home and sleep for 2 days after that. They may get up, they may go for an hour, and then they may come back. And it's hard to predict. They'll convalesce over a 4-week period. I can predict that, but I don't know what this child's attendance is going to be over that period of time. And those are just a couple of illnesses. We talked about chronic disease. There are some kids with chronic disease that are relatively well controlled, have trouble, end up in the hospital, or are going to be too sick to attend school for a period of time. But it may be one of these things where go as much as you can. I'm always trying to get kids back into school, but sometimes it's not feasible. So there may be some patterns of illness over a short period of time, and you're talking maybe a 2 or 4 week block here, where there might be some recurring illnesses. But I'd hate to have a kid, let's say that has, a chronic disease get another form to fill out, and, you know, the kid's had 12 absences because whatever this chronic disease has been flared up, and every time the parent comes in, they've got to fill out this form again. So there needs to be some way that we, the physicians, can communicate with the district to say, all right, here's the number of absences I would expect for this, okay? I mean, I don't have a problem, I'll pick up the phone and talk with you about the individual students, you know, without a question, and kind of fill you in, but, you know, there needs to be a way for physicians to communicate with the district, okay, what's going to be reasonable and what's not, okay? So that would just be something I would throw out, and I think that would be an addition to this form, so.
Do you want that to be language that is included on this form, some way to phrase that opens us up to have some sort of per communication from the physician, just something like that? Or what
Am I hearing, no, let me add in here real quick, am I hearing after the 12 that they have to do a form?
Yeah, this is
Correct.
going to get, that's, I
Now,
gotta have this to get them back in.
For each doctor's thing that they have, do they have to do a form for each doctor's thing, or is it just,
Every time from that point on, if they've had that, barring those chronic illnesses, which we're talking about there, at that point in time, they have to take that to the physician and get that form filled out, basically by that physician, so that it's sort of in the works.
Right.
I would have to say, on that form, I would hope we would specify if, because like if my son had MRSA, I mean, he was out quite a bit with his chin, and I would think after, because he missed quite a few days, Jessica can tell you, but I would think after he missed on that 12th day, then the doctor would be able to say, he don't need to fill this form out, he's going to miss 10 more days or whatever.
Absolutely.
That's when it's not a problem, because
Okay.
that's going to be a continuous period of time. You
I
can
just
look at
wanna
him and
make-
say, all right, he can return to school on this day. He should be
Yeah.
here in 2 weeks.
And my mind
So-
too is thinking that nurses and school personnel should be able to have that judgment there. I want to be careful so that it's not someone being able to say, well, my child was made to do this and this child. So I want to be careful with that, but at the same time open up to where the medical professionals and people who are involved in that
Yeah.
have that ability.
Okay, I'm all right, just as long as we have that understanding.
Well, no, I think we need to add some language about, my child has a chronic or recurrent illness, which is likely to result in a pattern of recurrent absences over a period of time. Doctor, write in what the kid has and what the pattern of absences is going to be, so we can make sure that the kid is missing school as you predict and not more. So, can you do that and bring that back?
Sure.
Would that be okay?
Sure,
Yeah,
absolutely.
feel free to email me and we can work on, we can work out language.
Okay.
But tonight, do you want to adopt with modification, change it to adopt with modification? Or what you're-
Yeah, we have to figure out what the modifications are. So.
Yeah.
Any other discussion with you all? I'm sorry, I monopolized that conversation.
That's your thing.
But I think overall, this is a good idea, because there's a lot of this sometimes that we find out. The kid has,
With what it is, I'm just going to say we'll get modifications before the second reading.
right. It was the procedure, so it's only going to be, we only read these once, right?
Ours, yeah,
So,
I'm good.
that's right, these.
so that one we'll be able to hold out until we get the,
Or go ahead and work on it, adopt as is, and go ahead and add that to it.
we can bring that back. We'll do that, and we'll bring that back next month. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next is 09224 AP21, which is consent for school health services. And that's been changed. And then 09224 AP21 is permitted. Oh, okay, I see what we're doing. That was the KSB changes, and we had changes on top of that, so. All right. 0933.AP2 is booster/support club agreement, and this is essentially a contract between the booster club and the school district, and it sets out the terms and conditions of that agreement. Let's see, early graduation application 08.113 AP2. Any questions on that? And then 200 credit options 08.1131 AP2. What were the changes on those? Any ideas? Oh, that's what, okay, all right.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Ms. Nance included those as part of the grievance/graduation discussion, but
Okay.
I would recommend no changes to any of these, so. And again, the grievance procedure initiation form, I'm fine bringing that back, approving that as is, bring that back at a work session for further discussion, so.
So were there changes in the Booster Club agreement?
That's new, if I remember correctly,
It was
correct?
referred to in your policy, but it wasn't actually in existence.
is new. And everything else, I think, deals with the grievances and graduation, so.
So the booster folks are aware of this now, or will be aware of it immediately?
It'll be part of the training. Once the policies are, it'll be part of the coach's training, the booster's training, what have you, red book training.
All right. Okay, so any other discussion? All right, so let's see. So the policies we are adopting as is are, let's see, all of them except the 09.221 AP1.
Has to read all buildings and grounds.
So we're going to add all buildings and grounds.
These are actually, should be as they're presented to you because they've already.
They've been changed.
Yeah,
So-
so those are,
And then,
the 08.113, no change.
right. And then the one we talked about was 09.123 AP2, which was the 12 absences, so.
That's one that
So,
will come back.
so we're going to modify that, and we'll bring that back at the next meeting. Okay. All right, a motion is in order to, or any other discussion before we? All right, if not, a motion is in order to approve the procedure updates as presented by Mr. Christie and Dr. Kudak, with the exception of 09.123 and P2, which will be brought back to, after revision, will be brought back to the board next month.
I'll make the motion to approve those, except for the one that we're bringing back.
Okay, motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Mr. Carter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, thank you, everyone. Next up is item number 20, consider approval of the facility use schedule. Mr. Stump.
We're just recommending that we carry over the fee schedule that we implemented last year with no changes. Help guide our principals in the rentals.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, a motion is in order to consider approval of the facility use schedule as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Paradigm,
I'll second the motion.
second by Mr. Wilson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Next up is item number 21, consider approval of the district code of conduct handbook.
Code of conduct, as has been written last year, we'd like to carry that over and implement it again this year with no substantive changes, future spelling errors, typos that we've corrected.
Okay. Everyone's had a chance to review those. Any comments or discussion?
Is that also going to be changed pursuant to the policies? Because I noticed the bullying definition is incorrect.
Actually, I think there was some wording that we did change in that one section on page 21, but there was really no substantive change.
I don't know what you mean.
On page 21,
Yeah.
We don't have the revised versions here.
Oh. Okay.
Bullying,
oh,
the definition for bullying needs to be changed.
Yes,
Yeah.
because that's a state.
Yeah, I'm under the
definition.
impression these don't go back to KSBA or anything, so.
That's on page
it's kind of
20.
on us to
It's
change
on
them.
page 23.
page 23?
Yeah, bullying, the definition of hazing and bullying is on page 23.
Oh, okay, now I'm following. No?
Yeah, no, bullying is defined by statute now, so
Yeah,
that
see,
language needs to reflect the
decide.
statute.
Yeah.
The wording in this document doesn't define bullying.
No.
It references what the expectation of students are.
21, it says bullying.
Hazing and bullying.
There's one page that says bullying defined.
That's 21.
Reflect the new,
Oh, yeah, that's on 21 as well.
Okay.
So yeah, that will have to reflect the new policy change.
Any other comments? Discussion? If not, a motion is in order to consider approval of district code of conduct handbook with appropriate edits to reflect the statutory definition of bullying.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Wilson?
Second.
Second by Mr. Parrott. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next up is pay application number 11.
Final pay application to PSI for the ESCO project at Campbell. The amount of $19,358.18.
What was the sum total?
Oh, gosh, the $1,320,000 was the contract, the original contract.
Any other questions on pay application number 11?
Does everything feel like it's going on schedule at Campbell?
Oh, yeah,
Be
we're-
done, everything?
They're predicting July 1, we should be able to start seeking the certificates of occupancy and all of the,
Okay.
so yeah, we're on schedule. Furniture's been delivered partially, but yeah, we're still good to go.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, motion is in order to consider approval of application number 11 for performance services with the Campbell Junior High Energy Project, the amount of $19,358.18.
I'll make that motion as written.
Motion by Mr. Parado.
Second.
Second, and we'll give it to Ms. Ritchie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Number 23 is a Codell pay estimate. Number 14.
Pay estimate for the past month for the contractors on your construction project on Campbell Junior High School. Request your approval for payment.
Any other questions on pay application number 14? All right. If not, motion is in order to approve Codell pay estimate number 14 for the Campbell Junior High School construction project, amount of $147,730.22.
Make that motion as written.
Motion by Mr. Parado.
Second.
Second by Ms. Ritchie. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And then on number 24, approval of change order 15-2.
Change order asking the board's permission to go ahead and replace all of the sidewalk out in front of Campbell Junior High. The original contract, the original big packages only include 150 feet in front of the canopy out in front of that school. This change order is asking for us to replace all the sidewalk that would go out to the right side of the building if you're facing out to Boone, all the way to Boone Avenue, the sidewalk that would go in front of the band room to the track, the stairs that would go down in front to the parking lot, and the sidewalk that would go out the left side of the building, out the wings to the football field.
Needs to be done.
Needs to be done.
That will make for a very nice looking area.
Funding for that would be from?
That would be from the contingency for the construction project, and if you were to approve this change order, that would, you would have a balance of $44,761.54 remaining in the contingency for that construction project.
Yeah, I'm with Judy on that. It needs to be done.
Yeah.
Yesterday. I agree.
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right, let's see. So a motion is in order, which is ready to be made by Mr. Wilson, to consider approval of Codell change order 15-2 to Risenson Developing for the Robert D. Campbell Junior High School renovation project amount of $87,833.68. Motion by
Second.
Mr. Wilson, second by Ms. Hicks. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Number 25 is the superintendent summative evaluation. The board met in closed session last Thursday and then a week ago Monday. And we also met to review this preliminarily with Mr. Christie before this meeting. And the following is going to be the presentation of the summative evaluation, final evaluation. I'll send Ms. Nance a copy of this. It will be posted on the district website. Let's see. This is the second year of the board using the new performance rubric, and the board rates the superintendent on 7 goals. Strategic leadership is one of the standards, instructional leadership, cultural leadership, human resource leadership, managerial leadership, collaborative leadership, and influential leadership. And this, the current evaluation rubric was meant to mirror the evaluation rubric that principals, teachers, and pretty much most certified staff in the district undergo. So this mirrors PEAGES and principal PEAGES also. So there's 4 different rating possibilities: exemplary, accomplished, developing, and growth required. There's actually 3 documents that consist of the evaluation. There is basically a large worksheet which consists of 44 different indicators. We're not going to go through all those this evening, but the board looked at each of those indicators in detail to come up with kind of a summative evaluation for each of the major leadership areas. And as a part of this process, we generate goals that we'd like to see the superintendent and board team work on the upcoming school year, and I'll detail some of those once we get to that. So under the superintendent evaluation, under strategic leadership, we felt Mr. Christie was accomplished. We felt that the district remains proficient. However, much work still needs to be done to successfully implement the strategic plan, which was recently implemented. We would like to see, in particular, better communication with board members. We prefer to have quarterly conversations with the superintendent regarding his and the district's project in regards to items discussed in this document. The board would also like to see successful implementation of a writing program which meshes fully with the existing reading program at the elementary level. The board appreciates the increased stress on the CDIP as a roadmap to improvement for the district. Under instructional leadership, Ms. Christie was rated developing. The district has been proficient for 2 consecutive years and remains very successful in getting its students to be college and career ready. The board would benefit from better communication regarding educational initiatives. The board would also like to see the superintendent further develop his skills as an instructional leader. The board recognizes and appreciates the educational efforts put forth in the district, especially at the high school. Under 3, cultural leadership, Mr. Christie was rated as accomplished. Recent changes in the district have been fully accepted by the community. The board would like to see a renewed emphasis on developing unity amongst elementary schools to go with the vertical integration which has been developed amongst the secondary schools. And would like to see a renewed emphasis on the Equity Council as a way to address diversity issues within the district and the community. Under human resource leadership, Mr. Christie is rated as developing. The district has successfully implemented PGES for all certified staff. The board awaits, and actually got tonight, thank you, a revised system for evaluation of classified staff, and would like to see increased efforts in the recruitment and retention of minority role models throughout the
Change
system.
that one now. Since that's completed, that change that up.
We'll see how it works. So, number 5, managerial leadership. Mr. Christie is rated as accomplished there. The board appreciates the superintendent's leadership in school safety issues. However, would like to see improved communication again between the superintendent, board, and all stakeholders. As of this writing, the budget is still significantly imbalanced, but we have word that it's getting closer. Number 6, collaborative leadership. Mr. Christie is rated accomplished. College and career readiness continues to be a strong point within the district. However, upcoming budget cuts to these programs will be a challenge for the district moving forward. And under item number 7, influential leadership, Mr. Christie was also rated accomplished there. The superintendent continues to maintain a good relationship with local and state officials. The board would like to see more discussion of legislative issues during the legislative session. Let's see, let me pull up the document on regarding some goals. We mentioned some of these in the summative evaluation. Under strategic leadership, a new goal is to schedule quarterly work sessions between board and superintendent to make the board more aware of current district initiatives and needs, and for communication between board and superintendent. I think the goal there would be we would go into these work sessions without an agenda, and this should just be open talk and just free-range talk about the district and some of the things that are going on, some of the problems that are in the district, some of the things that we need to come up with solutions for, some of the things that are on the horizon, some of the things we're taking care of. We would like school and district websites to contain up-to-date email links to facilitate communication within the districts, and with the district and the community, as well as up-to-date staff listings. I think if our websites are more functional and allow more communication, we should be able to get forms we need online. Teachers should be able to communicate with the other teachers through websites. People should go to a school website and know what's going on in that school at any given point in time, so I'd like to work towards that. Under instructional leadership, we want to develop more emphasis on improvement of writing skills throughout the district, especially aligning what we do with writing with our current ELA curriculum, which is very well accepted by our teaching community. Under culture of leadership, we talked about working on developing a sense of unity amongst elementary schools. That's already somewhat happened because now we have one handbook for all of our elementary schools, so there's definite progress, definite step there. Under human resource leadership, we would like Mr. Christie to develop and present a board organizational flow chart. Actually, in one of our handbooks, there's a link to a flow chart which gives you a 404. So we would like to have an organizational flow chart we could refer to. Under managerial leadership, to present a balanced budget to the board, also add more details to munis accounts so that the board can keep better track of receipts and expenditures, and also to discuss with the board the future use of properties not named priority 1 on the current district facility plan, because we have a priority 1 as the athletic facilities, but we pretty much have to figure out, it's going to be up to the board now to figure out what to do with the rest of Campbell, what to do with the old area technology building, what to do with the preschool property, and we're going to need to have some conversations about that. Number 6, collaborative leadership. Consider regular meetings between the school system and employers to make sure district graduates have the skills that local employers need. Cora and I talk a lot about this in community education. This is a recurring topic that comes up over and over again. And I think, we've talked about employability and how to show up for a job interview and how to write a resume and all those things. Some of that's covered. But one other thing might be, we have a fairly large industry catalog, which is planning a significant expansion. They may have some needs that are very specific, and they would prefer to hire graduates of GRC, and they would prefer to hire people in their community. It's just the way Catalan is. And I think it's incumbent upon us to start opening up a communication with them and with other business leaders to say, hey, listen, what types of skills are lacking in our current graduates that you need to see which would make your business more successful. So, and under Standard 7 influential leadership, we'd like Mr. Christie to discuss the effect of proposed new legislation on the district at regular board meetings. We as board members get a lot from KSBA and the state about how proposed legislation during the legislative session affects schools in general, but I'd like to hear about how things would affect the district in particular. So, in summary, the board would like to thank Mr. Christie for all the hard work he's done over the past year, and we look forward to continuing to work with him to improve the Clark County School District and with the community at large. Okay. We'll need a motion and a second to accept the superintendent's summary evaluation as presented.
I'll make the motion to accept the superintendent's evaluation.
All right, motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
second by Mr. Parrott. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next up is item number 25A, attendance at the KSBA Summer Leadership Institute. I guess we'll need a motion and a second to approve our attendance here. Please get your choices in attendance and answers as soon as possible, because registration is either closed or fixing it's pretty short. So. Okay.
Do you need a motion?
Yeah, let's do a motion in a second.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ms. Ritchie,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Wilson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Does anyone want to hear any item off of the consent agenda separately? I have one comment on SBDM minutes. There was a set of Baker SBDM minutes where there was a closed session, and I would point out, the Baker principal's not here, but I would point out that the SBDM council is subject to the same Open Meetings Act rules that we are subject to in any public agency. So if you go into closed session, you have to state why, and it's helpful to state the statute and the reason you're going into closed session. So that should have appeared on those minutes.
I also noted that on some of the council minutes, there's no way to know what they were discussing.
Mm-hmm.
It just had motion, second, passed.
Right.
There, what were they voting on? What was the content of what they were discussing? And there was no agenda included, so you really didn't, it sort of had it with what they were discussing, but
Right.
you couldn't follow anything that happened. And so one was a policy change, but you couldn't tell what the policy was.
Right.
So we need more detail, maybe some, yeah.
We even talked a little bit that even got, I hate to create more paper chase for principals, but there could be if we could get them all on the same format for the minutes.
Well, use shearers. They know what they're doing over there.
That's a good question, Tia. Does
The high schools,
ASBA have a
the high
template
school and
for
shearer both, really,
site-based
you
council
can follow
minutes?
what they did and what they're doing.
They do have samples they can follow from the trainings that we have.
Okay.
There's a section on it.
I mean, I had asked for this to be added as a regular agenda item some time back, and the idea there is to try to figure out, I want to try to keep track of what's going on in the schools. And, a site-based council speaks to its minutes just like a board speaks to its minutes. So the more detail that's there, the more everybody is going to know. So. Okay, any other discussion of consent agenda items? If not, a motion is in order to approve or acknowledge all the following. Item number 26, consider approval of the GRC Bass Team National Championship Trip, July 31st through August 7th, 2016 in Paris, Tennessee. Item number 27, consider approval of GRC Girls Soccer Trip, August 19th through 21st, 2016, Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Acknowledge SBDM minutes, approval of employee leave of absence, acknowledge the notice of personnel action report, acknowledge the monthly energy report, acknowledge the cash position report, acknowledge the Clark County Clerk motor vehicles tax report, acknowledge the Clark County Sheriff's report, acknowledge the monthly financial report, and acknowledge the general fund budget summary report. Motion is in order to approve or acknowledge all those items.
I move that we approve or acknowledge the items as presented, items 26 through 36.
Motion by Ms. Hicks.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wilson. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Motion is in order to authorize payment of salaries and accounts payable.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Parado.
Second.
Second by Ms. Ritchie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Motion is in order to adjourn to closed session to discuss pending litigation for KRS 61.810 subsection 1 subsection C.
I'll make the motion to adjourn the closed session.
Motion by Mr. Wilson,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Farrow. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. The board is in closed session at 8:43 PM. A brief break while we reorganize. Thank you everyone for attending.